car! There you go. Yep. On your right. I got door. Do not see movement. Get out! Get out! I got driver door.
Sunday, September 17th, 2023, at around 8 p.m., the Will County Police Department in the state of Illinois received 2 consecutive calls. The first call was from a woman who identified herself as the mother of 32-year-old Zoraida Bartolomei, one of the residents of the village of Romeoville.
Lairway Communications, how can I help you?
I'm calling for my daughter, Zoraida Bartolomei. We haven't heard from her or her husband or her children during the whole day. No answering the phone. If somebody can go by the house and check them.
But when did you last talk to her? Yeah,
last night.
Last night? Okay, I'm going to send officers over to check on her, and somebody will give you a call back, okay?
The second call was from Zora's sister, Aida Bartolomei.
So it's my sister Zoraida and her husband Alberto. I got a call from his job that he did a no-call, no-show, and me and various family members have called them. We talk to them every day, and it's just really unusual for them.
A few minutes later, the police received a third call. This one was from the mother of 38-year-old Alberto Rolon, Zora's husband. From this point on, the story entered a whole new phase, because in this small village of around 40,000 people, the police department's phone doesn't exactly ring that often throughout the day. At around 8:45 p.m., patrol cars arrived on Concord Avenue. The officers got out and cautiously made their way toward house number 512. The house was dark and silent. They knocked several times, but there was no sound coming from inside. Not even the usual sound of a restless dog or children running across the wooden floor. With their flashlights on, the officers started walking around the house and looking through the windows, with that kind of caution police officers always show when they're about to come face to face with a tragedy.
Get on the phone for 17 and call and figure out more information on this call. Got it.
The first suspicious thing the officers reported was a television with a shattered screen lying on the living room floor. A little farther away, an overturned table was lying on the ground. From the evidence, it looked like there had been an argument or some kind of physical confrontation.
Hey, I got a TV knocked over and a coffee table knocked over. Romeoville 367. Can we get another unit to Camden, please? Everything's 10-4. You see the TV in the,
Considering the state of the house, the police thought that maybe the husband and wife had gotten into a serious fight, then left the house and taken the children with them.
Hi, Lydia. This is Officer Strong. I'm here at your daughter's house. When's the last time you spoke with your daughter? Last night? Okay. Did she say if there are any issues going on in the household? No? Okay. No arguments between her and her husband or anything? They were watching a movie? Okay. Not to frighten you or anything, but we came here, no one's answering the door. We self-dispatch.
A few minutes later, one of the officers noticed that the back door of the house was partially open, and that was the moment the police's entire line of thinking changed.
There's a window, right? Yeah. Okay, I'll cover this window. This window's open. No, it's not.
The discovery of the bodies of the 3 Rolon family dogs turned the whole situation around. Up until that point, the officers had only been looking for some sign of life. A footstep, a light, a movement. But now, this was no longer just a wellness check. When the animals inside the house had been killed like that, it meant there was a possibility of an armed attacker still being inside the house, and of course, the possibility of hostages as well. So the police took a tactical formation, and the next phase began. entering a building that was now not only dark and silent, but potentially deadly.
Hey, open the trunk. Units from 367. I'm waiting for at least one more to make entry.
No other side doors, right?
No, not that I know of. Here we go.
The officers entered the house, armed and extremely cautious. At the end of the hallway, the first thing they saw was the body of Alberto Rolon, the father of the family, lying motionless on the floor. It appeared that the man had been shot. His eyes were still open, staring at nothing. But this wasn't the end of it. The bodies of Zoraida and her two sons, 7-year-old Adriel and 9-year-old Diego, were also found together inside the master bedroom. It looked like that had been the last place they thought might be safe. A house that, just a few hours earlier, had been full of color and life, had now become a dark frame. A frame whose final image was the death of the 4-member Rolon family.
Ma'am, go inside.
Go inside.
Hi, puppy.
For analyzing the crime scene, we have several key clues. The back door of the house was open, but on the other side, one of the window screens had been torn, as if someone had tried to get in through there. Several bullet casings were found on the floor, and there were also bullet impacts on some of the walls. The house was somewhat disorganized, but nothing had been stolen, so it was unlikely that money had been the motive behind the crime. Friends and acquaintances of the family told police that there had been no serious tension between Zoraida and Alberto. So based on the evidence, it seemed that the motive for the killings hadn't come from inside the family. Instead, there appeared to be an outside person or an outside situation involved. Let's see what we can make of all this information. Even though the attack had taken place through the back door, the window screen had been tampered with. That suggested the killer had tried to stage the scene. And since nothing had been stolen, the main objective had clearly been to eliminate the victims, not to commit a robbery. The use of a firearm, with multiple shots fired inside an enclosed environment, especially one where children were present, doesn't point to a momentary burst of anger. On the contrary, this level of violence is something we see from people who have a deep, personal motive. The large number of casings suggests that the shots were fired one after another and in different parts of the house. That means the killer may have been chasing the victims through the house. The bullet impacts on the walls seem to support that idea. It appears the victims were either trying to escape or at least trying to get away from the path of the bullets. When we put all of these details together, with the fact that the children and their mother had taken refuge in the corner of the bedroom, we realize that the crime scene wasn't the result of an instantaneous attack, because at least those 3 people had enough time to react. The next important detail is that the killer went directly to the place where the victims were supposed to feel safe, their own home. He entered with almost no damage and not only made it inside the house, but all the way to the bedroom. So there's a good chance he knew them. And when you add the broken bedroom door to that, another possibility comes up. Maybe the killer's intention wasn't simply to kill. Maybe he wanted to frighten the victims or send a message. From the weapon and the casings, we can assume that we're dealing with a relatively experienced criminal. For example, someone with a military background, a former police officer, a trained criminal, or at the very least, someone who had planned and prepared for what he was about to do. So this wasn't an impulsive reaction. The case sitting on the police's desk was a calculated crime. Now there's another important detail. The attack happened sometime between 3 and 4 in the morning. We know this from one of the neighbors, who claimed to have heard gunshots at around 3:30 a.m. But that neighbor thought the sound was thunder, so he didn't follow up on it. According to the security camera footage from the front of the residence, a dark-colored vehicle was also driving around the area around the same time. But what would catch the attention of a profiler is this. Someone who enters a house at around 3:30 in the morning knows exactly that everyone is asleep, the streets are empty, and nobody is likely to see anything. That means the timing was deliberate. The decision was calculated. The killer knew the family, he knew the neighborhood, and he had planned the attack in advance. The police's first step was interviewing the family, the neighbors, and close friends. But the problem was that nobody knew which direction to point the police in, because there were no obvious clues. So the detectives turned their attention to Alberto and Zora's workplaces. Alberto had worked the night shift at a warehouse for the past 6 years. No drama. Regular. Precise. No absences, and not even any lateness. According to his co-workers, he was a calm and kind man who always had a smile on his face and had never gotten into a confrontation with anyone. But the story of his marriage to Zora was a little different. From the outside, everything looked normal. A neat house in a good neighborhood, 2 polite children, and a husband and wife building their life together. But as the police investigated further, they realized that the house looked more like a temporary truce than a real marriage. Evidence showed that Zora had previously cheated on her husband once, and Alberto had told close friends that he was only staying in the relationship because of his children. It seemed that all those smiles and pictures of the 2 of them on the walls were just a cover. Zora worked at an engineering company called Avanti, an industrial and rather dry environment where extremely precise metal parts were manufactured. During interviews with people around this woman, police learned that one of her co-workers, Nathaniel Huey, and his fiancée, Ermalinda Palomo, were close friends with Zora and had been spending time with her for a long time. While police were looking for a serious lead that could help solve the case, digital forensics prepared a detailed report on the victims' phones. The information extracted from Zora and Alberto's phones became a digital map of their personal relationships. And somewhere in the middle of it all, there were traces of messages from Nathaniel and Ermalinda as well. The day after the incident, police decided to start with Ermalinda, thinking she might have information that could help solve the case. But as luck would have it, Irma wasn't home. Right as the officers were standing outside her house, a red Chevrolet slowly pulled into the driveway. But suddenly, it backed up, turned around, and went to park across the street. It was as if seeing the officers had suddenly changed the driver's mind. The situation was suspicious from that moment, but it became even stranger when, about half an hour later, detectives saw the same red Chevrolet in the parking lot of Avanti, right around the time they were waiting for Nathaniel. A few moments later, Nathaniel showed up. He calmly walked toward the car, had a short conversation with the driver, then got into his own vehicle. Both cars left the parking lot. The police followed them. After 1 or 2 hours of aimlessly driving around the streets, the officers finally managed to find Nathaniel back at the Avanti facility and talk to him.
Obviously, we talked to her family, we talked to friends and stuff, hence why we're here, and that's why we're sitting in this room talking to you. And, like, I gotta ask, did you have anything to do with this? Okay, I have to ask, and you know that your number is going to be in her phone, and we're going to find your text messages, and we're going to find that stuff, and I want to get a surprise later on that you guys are fighting, or that there was something going on between you 2, or just 3 of you that I don't know about, Something like that.
Nobody was threatening anybody. We weren't fighting. Like, really, she's like an angel, what I'm saying? Like a sweet girl, so like.
Okay, like I said, we're this is so new to us, investigation-wise. We have tons of videos to go through and license plates.
Nathaniel Huey had met Ermalinda, a woman who had several children from a previous marriage, at work in 2015. It didn't take long for their relationship to become serious, and they got engaged. When police checked Nathaniel's record, they discovered that his history wasn't exactly spotless. He had a few minor offenses on his record. Things like driving without a license or driving under the influence, nothing extremely serious. But even that was a red flag for police. Alongside that record, what stood out even more in his behavioral reports was his unstable and deeply suspicious personality, a kind of constant paranoia. He always thought someone was following him. He would cover the camera on his phone with tape. He would do the same thing to the little red light on his television. And if someone removed that tape, he would become extremely upset.
And you said you talked to her on your phone, right? Okay. So what we'd like, or what we're asking for, is consent to get the text messages off your phone between you and her, or Snapchat or whatever it is between you, so we have both sides of it. We're trying to eliminate you as a suspect, but...
It's on the computer, right? You can get it on the computer.
No, we have to take the phone, we plug it in, we take it out, and then we give your phone back.
Oh, I didn't have anything in there. I'd rather you guys just go on the computer.
I agree with you, but again, there's it would take us, a couple hours to pull information off the phone that could eliminate you as a suspect, like right from the start. It's up to you.
It feels like everybody's suspecting of me.
Well, I mean, I'm not joking with you. Anytime somebody dies, you look at the husband, the boyfriend, if it's a girl, if it's a guy, you look at his wife and any kind of lovers he had, and that's what we look at. We start there. And then this person was...
Reports showed that Nathaniel had started a new story at Avanti, using almost the same method he had used years earlier when he entered a relationship with Ermalinda. Starting in mid-September 2022, he and Zora, while both were already committed to other relationships, entered into a secret affair. And the trouble started exactly when that secret relationship stopped being secret. Both Ermalinda and Alberto eventually found out about everything. When Alberto found out, he became insanely angry. He went and slashed Nathaniel's tires and left him a note that said, "Stay away from Zora," although Nathaniel didn't take the warning seriously at all. Now, it was time for police to talk to Ermalinda herself. They needed to find out exactly where she and her fiancé had been on the night of the incident and whether either of them had any role in what happened. So, on September 18th, 2023, police questioned her right outside her home.
Hi, Ermalinda. My name is Detective Garcia from the Romeoville Police Department. This is Detective Wagner.
Hello.
Okay. We're investigating a murder. Okay? We have in our possession some phones, okay? And in those phones, we're doing what it's called a phone dump. So what happens is if anybody's talking on a text app that you can download, for example, Text Now, we can retrieve those messages.
Okay.
We have retrieved those messages, all right? We've read them. They're pretty clear that somebody's pretty upset at the victim, okay? Is there any way that these text messages are gonna come back to you? Or your name, or your phone, or anything associated with that? Okay.
From the very first moment the officers started talking to her, Ermalinda tried to distance herself from the situation. She said she had only just found out that her fiancé had been having a relationship with one of the victims, Zora. In other words, she put herself in the position of the victim of the affair. Although police had found messages on Zora's phone that had been sent by Ermalinda, messages full of anger, hatred, and threats. When the conversation turned to Nathaniel, Ermalinda still tried to defend him. She said her fiancé didn't own a real gun. Sometimes he played with an airsoft rifle for fun. He loved military equipment, but he wasn't a dangerous person. Then she came up with a story about the night of the incident and claimed Nathaniel hadn't left the house at all that night.
And I didn't know that.
You didn't know what?
That he was having an affair.
Okay.
When did you find that out? Right now?
Right now.
Okay. When's the last time that he had an affair? Because I know this is not the first time.
No, it's not.
Okay. When's the last time you knew he had an affair?
When we first started dating.
2015?
You know what? His son was born and he said, "I'm not having any more affairs. I'm not cheating on you."
Okay.
Stupidly.
The evidence suggests that at some point, everything went completely out of control, at least for Ermalinda. At first, she may have simply been an angry fiancé trying to deal with betrayal. But what appeared in her messages was no longer just anger. It was a kind of obsession, a sense of possession. When she found out Nathaniel was having a relationship with Zora, she first went after the girl, and in a firm tone, as if she were marking the boundaries of her own territory, she sent her a message. "I know about your bedroom relationship. Stay away from my man." A few days later, when she realized the warning hadn't worked, she sent another message. "Nathaniel is dangerous. I'm the only one who knows how to deal with him. You're playing with fire." Then she threatened to tell Alberto everything, and that's exactly what she did. That was when everything really fell apart.
We're trying to find out who was involved. So we're talking to everyone. We're talking to you. We're talking to him. We're talking to other people because, as you may be aware, people like to the police, right? What I would like to ask you is, on either Friday or Saturday night, did he go out with his friends?
No.
Did he work?
Friday night, no, he was with me.
Saturday night.
No. Okay, this is what happened.
Are you telling me the truth?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be covering for Nate at all?
Even my daughter said he was here.
Before we continue with the rest of the story, we need to make one important thing clear. To police, this case initially looked like a family-related crime, a love triangle, a series of threatening messages, a few affairs, and then a murder. But everything changed when the digital forensic officers started examining the suspect's phones. They found things that seemed like they had come straight out of a mafia movie. A series of mysterious messages from unknown senders, messages filled with threats, codes, and strange instructions. The senders claimed to be members of a criminal organization with direct connections to Mexican cartels and Bulgarian gangs. This is one of the messages that was sent to Nathaniel. "We're watching you. You belong to us. Go back to your job or you're going to lose your head." The messages were being sent through Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Nathaniel had even been given a code name, Skurilla. The strange thing was that this criminal organization wasn't asking him to carry out any particular operation. They just wanted him to know that he was being watched. All the time, everywhere. Sometimes they would send messages saying, "You were at Walmart with that guy in the blue shirt," or "We saw you while you were on your way home." And the interesting thing was that these messages were extremely accurate. Nathaniel was already mentally unstable and restless. Now he became convinced that someone really was following him. For the first time, he thought maybe he was actually part of some secret mission. Maybe these mysterious people were testing him. Or maybe he had been chosen for some important mission. In short, this whole situation was like pouring gasoline onto the fire of his existing delusions. But this story wasn't limited to Nathaniel. Ermalinda was also receiving messages from unknown people using names like Elisa, Claudia, and Turtle. They told her, "If you don't treat Nathaniel well, you're going to be killed." On the other side, Zora and Alberto were also receiving threatening messages. They too became convinced that they were constantly being watched and followed. At some point, members of that mysterious group started talking about an informant. They told Nathaniel, "Someone close to you is a snitch and is working for the enemy." They told him to be careful because someone was plotting behind his back. Nathaniel, who was already full of distrust, was now becoming suspicious of everyone. His family, Zora, even his own fiancée, Ermalinda. But the important thing he didn't know was that the mysterious group didn't exist at all. There was no Mexican cartel. There was no Bulgarian gang. Those messages, those threats, those instructions, all of them had been created by Ermalinda, the loyal fiancée, who had now turned herself into a hacker of the human mind. When she found out Nathaniel was having an affair with Zora, she decided to start a psychological war. So she brought the fake accounts she had created beforehand into the plan. Accounts with different names, fake flags, and messages written in Spanish and Bulgarian. Nathaniel had become the perfect victim of a folie à deux. Not only did he believe these groups were real, he was convinced that he had been chosen by professional criminals and was being tested. But what made the story violent was that Nathaniel wasn't following any of their orders. He didn't leave Zora. He didn't repair his relationship with his fiancée. And that's when Ermalinda realized the mind game wasn't enough. So she changed her plan. She no longer wanted to simply scare him. She wanted to make her fiancé eliminate her romantic rival with his own hands. So one day, using one of those fake accounts, she sent him a message and revealed the name of the informant, Zora. And Nathaniel, exactly according to plan, slowly stepped into the hell that Ermalinda had built for him. Now let's get to the main part of the story. That weekend, Nathaniel was exchanging messages with one of the members of the Bulgarian cartel, or, more accurately, Ermalinda. The time had come for the final planning, identifying the streets and alleys, mapping the house, figuring out the camera angles, and choosing the best time to enter. That was when the order to kill was given. This was the final message. 3 a.m, violent entry through the back door. First obstacle, the dogs. 3 dogs. 2 medium-sized, 1 small. When they appear, shoot them. Then go after the adults, and then the children. The final sentence of the message, which was also mentioned in police reports, is genuinely disturbing. "I promise both your wife will be happy, and your nerves will finally be at peace." At this point, Nathaniel should have immediately questioned the whole situation, especially when, completely out of nowhere, the message talked about making his fiancée happy. But instead, he got into the car, and he asked Ermalinda to get behind the wheel and accompany him during the operation. When they arrived, he climbed over the back fence. He cut the window screen to make everything look like a normal burglary, and then he entered the house. At 3:40 a.m., the shooting began. 3 minutes later, the operation was over. Nathaniel was supposed to take the victims' phones as well, but his mind was so disturbed that he forgot. From the morning of Tuesday, September 19th, 2023, Nathaniel and Ermalinda stopped answering any calls from police. During the last interrogation, they had been told that there were still a few questions they needed to answer at the police station, but they never showed up. That day, Ermalinda told her daughter that she might be arrested, probably on murder charges, but she said she wanted to cooperate. That cooperation never happened. Meanwhile, Nathaniel met with his mother, and for the first time, he confessed to her what horrific crime he had committed.
Ma'am, can't go near the car right now. It's evidence. Yeah, we're getting a search warrant for it. Okay, so unfortunately you can't touch the car right now. Okay? All right.
When Ermalinda returned home and tried to get into her car, officers stopped her. The vehicle was supposed to be impounded. A search warrant was also on its way. But because an arrest warrant had not yet been issued for the suspect, they couldn't arrest her. The next morning, Ermalinda's family contacted police and reported that she was missing. Her phone was turned off. She wasn't answering any calls or messages. Police classified her status in their report as a person at risk and raised the possibility that she had been kidnapped by her fiancé. But later, using the license plate tracking system, the suspects were located at a Walmart in Oklahoma, shopping calmly, without a care in the world. There was no sign of a threat on their faces, no sign of force or coercion. Several police units were immediately dispatched to the location, but as soon as the officers arrived, the two suspects jumped into their vehicle and took off.
Going westbound on Romeoville. We're still traveling westbound on 63.
A high-speed chase began on the highway, but it didn't take long before the suspect's car went off the road and came to a stop beside the highway guardrail. A circle of police vehicles formed around the car. And right at that moment, as police reached the vehicle, the sound of 3 gunshots echoed through the highway. Nathaniel first fired 1 bullet into Ermalinda's head. Then, with 2 more bullets, he ended his own life. Apparently, the first shot didn't kill her immediately, but the second one was fatal. When the doors of the vehicle were opened, Nathaniel was dead behind the wheel. Ermalinda was dying in the passenger seat. And of course, she didn't survive for long.
On your right. Go to your right behind you.
Nobody knows exactly when the final decision was made. Maybe somewhere along the way. Maybe at the very moment they encountered the guardrail. But whatever the case, this story and this toxic love ended right there, in absolute silence, inside a burned-out car, in the middle of smoke and the smell of gunpowder.